My name is Alexander, and this is the story of how I procrastinated and how I managed to survive the horrific week of events. I was coming up on spring break, and the last thing I wanted to do was think about schoolwork. So let's start with Sunday night.
I needed to get started on my paper for my film class. It was due in the morning, and I hadn't started working on it yet. I sat down to finally start, and I was immediately looking for a distraction away from the paper. Heck, I didn't want to do it. I knew about this assignment for over a month, and I was just starting it now. I had to rid myself of all distractions and go hard on this paper, and I wanted it to be at least 5 or 6 pages. I was stressing out over the assignment, and I knew that it was worth 35% of my entire grade for the course, so it needed to be written well. Several hours had passed, and I was finally finished with the paper. I went to bed by 2 in the morning, and I had to get through my classes so I could start working on the next assignment that was due.
I had one assignment finished, but I still had the whole week ahead of me. I still had one more paper to turn in, a test to take, and a speech to give. I knew about these things well in advance, but I didn't want to get started on them yet. Thinking about each of the things I needed to do made me freak out a little bit, but I just decided to put those things off and make myself feel better for the time being. I knew that this was going to be a long week, and all I wanted to do was make it to the weekend. Now on to Monday night.
I had a speech to give on Thursday, and the outline was due on Tuesday, so I spent my Monday night working on the outline for my speech. I immediately started working on it as soon as I got back from my class at 5. I had some of my sources picked out for the speech, I just had to find a few more and put them all together. Stressing over this assignment would only make working even harder, so I had to keep myself calm and keep working without distractions. I took a short break to go get dinner with my roommates, but then it was right back to the speech. I was not going to let any distractions get in my way of working on this stressful speech. It took me a good 5 or 6 hours, but I was finally able to finish. After a hard night's work, it was time for bed again.
One day of classes down, 3 more to go. It was now Tuesday night, and I had to study for a test that I would be taking the next day. I also had to start thinking about my paper that was due Thursday, as well as the speech I had to give. This week just couldn't get over with fast enough.
I made the note cards for my speech, and I knew that I should start working on my English paper. I didn't really feel like working on the paper since it wasn't due yet. I needed to start studying for my test first, since it was most important priority-wise, but I decided to play some video games first. After playing video games for a few hours, I got back to studying. My teacher didn't make the class a study guide, so I had to read through all of my notes and the textbook for the key concepts. This test was going to be over 4 chapters in our textbook, so I had a decent amount of things to look for. After a few hours of studying, I decided to head off to bed.
I was totally ready for this test, or at least I thought I was. Thinking about the test was pretty stressful. I had a full 2 hours to work on it, and I was one of the last people to finish. I was nervous, especially when I got to the short answer section, because I couldn't remember all of the important information. I gave it my best shot and was able to get it finished. Now on to Wednesday night.
The big finale. One more night of hard work, one final day of class, and I would be free. I got back to my English paper and worked pretty hard on it, and even had my roommates look it over for errors. I was proud of my paper, and all I had left to do was practice my speech a few times, but I was getting tired, so I decided to put off rehearsing until the next morning.
I rehearsed it in front of my roommates as well as to myself a few times, and I felt well prepared for my speech. I gave my speech that morning and turned in my paper. I was finally free for spring break, and I could finally relax.
I waited until the night before each assignment was due to work on each of the assignments. I knew about each one of them well in advance, and I had them all written down on my calendar. I know that I should have started working on my assignments earlier than I did, and I know that I would have been much less stressed had I done this, but I didn't care. I was finally on spring break, and all I was looking forward to was going home.
A few weeks had passed, and I was getting my grades back from the week before break. I managed to get an A on both of my papers, as well as an A on my speech. I got a C on my test, which was about average for the class, but I was happy with it. I got all of my assignments done on time, even though the outcome could have been much worse. I was stressing out so much during the week, and I told myself that I needed to work on my procrastination problem so this kind of thing doesn't happen again.
Hey Xander, did you finish your English video project yet?
I'm working on it! Anyway, I learned a lesson on procrastination this time around. I'm sure it won't be the last time I'll be stuck in a situation like this, but hopefully next time I'll manage my time better.